story of this book is a story of many stories. And many of the people are here tonight, so it's not a usual conversation or talk or lecture I can give at universities. It's entitled Danish Diaries because it's a diary of so many people that they had the privilege to meet and know in person, or when they were not alive, I could manage because they opened their archives, their houses to me. And it is also a book after 20 years of coming in and out Denmark. This is just, the first spread of the book where you see different cities. I named with you, there's Rome, Amalfi, and Civitanantino, which is in Abruzzo, like a little city. There's Albisola, Herning, then there's Strandvej, Ivrea, Milan, Fredericia, Copenhagen, Ebeltoft, Venice, Pietrasanta, and Mergozzo, which are very distant cities, but I will explain later why. This book is full of incredible people, ladies and men that in recent history, from the Second World War to contemporary times, they did incredible good things. There's a road in Rome, it's called Via Sistina, which connects Piazza Barberini Square, to the Trinità dei Monti, to the Spanish stairs, where two kings of the Danish culture lived when they were in Rome. Alberto Thorvaldsen, Bertel Thorvaldsen, and Hans Christian Andersen. It's funny that, they both found an apartment on the same street. But the story of Alberto, he celebrated his anniversary in Rome with a party every time. And his studio was actually a representation of a very diverse community. There were artists, female and male artists coming from Malta, from Poland, from Italy, from Denmark, and they were all working together. And that's why I launched the book at the Academy of Denmark in Rome, because it's wonderful how in the middle of Villa Borghese Park you see this beautiful building, and the interiors are amazing. You are kind of stepping into, this is an architecture by Kai Fisker, into a 60s interior. Also referring to the past, vernacular architecture for the Amalfi Coast was actually very inspiring for the architects that in the 50s, if you go to Kilelai or if you go north of Elsinore, many of these beautiful villas that you immediately categorize as beautiful Danish examples of rustic architecture, actually they come from the Amalfi Coast. This is a little village in Abruzzo. Abruzzo is a region in the center of Italy on the east coast, just south of Marche, where I come from. Zartmann, the Danish painter, he was used, like many painters at that time, to travel towards Germany and arriving in Rome or Venice or Florence for the Grand Tour. But once he was in Rome, he felt that he was not the king of rock and roll. He was not the only one there, because there were so many other artists coming from Scandinavia. So he found peace and harmony in this beautiful village. And then over there, he was the only stranger. And then he built up there a community and a school of art. And many, many Danish artists that now are exhibited at the Statens Museum for Kunst are actually, they synthesize their aesthetic, their use of colors and light, thanks to the school of Civitanantino. But then we come also to Fredericia. Fredericia, of course, it's a story of a town, but it's also a story of a great company. And of course, it's also a story of this man that was invited, Vico Magistretti, on the left here, together with Maddalena de Padova, that was invited to be part of the design gallery of Fredericia. And actually, it was Vico that spotted the company during the fair. At that time, he was teaching at the Royal College of Art, and among his students, were Konstantin Gercic and Jasper Morrison. And he was also very used to come to Denmark together with Maddalena de Padova, because Maddalena de Padova was the first to import in Milano Danish design. So the sensitivity and the bond between the two of them, that they were also lovers, made the story easier. Ebeltoft is very famous for the headquarters of Kvadrat. But in the history, recent history of Kvadrat, there's also this man, Giulio Ridolfo, color designer. The story of Giulio, that he works in a very interesting way, and he thanks a lot Denmark, because he learned a lot about colors living and working here in Denmark. He works in a very analogical way. He does what we call imparatici, like trays, where he collects leaves and elements from the nature, but also garbage, and then he composes a color palette that then it becomes fabrics. So it's very simple, but this makes the success of his work, because his fabrics is like millions of meters every year. And then we go to Erning. Piero Manzoni, 33 years old, he came to Erning because conceptual artist, he couldn't find his way in Italy. I mean, no one understood his work. And then, of course, he found an entrepreneur that gave him a salary, that gave him the possibilities to develop his own art. And this is an experiment he did at the local newspaper, and also together with the company that actually was producing shirts. So he found the freedom, and he found the opportunity that his own land could give it to him. You know, now when you go to Milano and you go to art museum, you know, we portray Piero Manzoni as one of the strongest artists, but at that time in Brera, he was having a difficult time because it was not understood at all. But Erning is not only an important city for Piero. For example, this is Earth Museum. This is by Stephen All. So, and then if you see it from above, it like this picture, it looks like a shirt drying on a summer day. This is Milan, where I live, and this was the first show of Danish design in Triennale after the Second World War. And it's funny because it's a graphic design show. The exhibition design was by Terragni and Lingeri, two of the heroes of the rationalism. It's nice because you see how at that time with no funds it was important, like how can we make an exhibition, like flat packs and posters. But if you read the diaries of Vico Magistretti, of Ettore Sozzas, of all the great maestros, when they asked them about Nordic design, they all remember these exhibitions where, you know, it was about like food and zoo and museums, and not at all about, you know, interiors or architecture or furniture design. The book tells a lot of other stories. Of course, one is about the great maestro Asger Jorn, where he had a beautiful house in Liguria, and you can still visit his house, Villa Jorn, because he realized a lot of site-specific works in the house. And right in the moment we are doing the presentation in Milano, there's the inauguration of the major retrospective of Elmgren and Raxet at the Fondazione Prada. This is an installation that they recently did at the Nordic Pavilion at the Venice Biennale. They own a lot to Italy, because I remember in Milan over 20 years ago they destroyed the pavement of Galleria Vittorio Emanuele, where like a car and a van were coming out of the pavement. Of course they didn't destroy, but it looked like it was destroyed. At the end of the day, you can get very angry with someone in Italy, but then you make peace, and then we have a pizza or a glass of wine, and then I thank you everyone for your attention, and this is like a short list of all the people involved in the book, and thank you very much.